So in this video, I'm going to be discussing JUJUTSU rank and the kind of internal struggles a lot of students may have while going through that systematic this, then this, then this rank progression throughout their jiu-jitsu journey. So recently we had our summer promotions here at Seika Dojo, and it's one of my favorite things to do is reward my students' hard work and their dedication to the art. So that being said, I feel like I need to define my expectations at each rank, because it can be very discouraging to the jiu-jitsu practitioner to put in a lot of work and not get something they feel that they've, earned. So I think it's important to be transparent as a sensei or professor in jiu-jitsu as to what your expectations are at each rank. So that's what I'm doing. Generally speaking, white belt, you're learning the art, you're absorbing as much as you can. And that's about a 2-year process before you get into blue. Now you can shave maybe 6 months off of that, maybe more. These are just general guidelines, but that's about a 2-year process. You can shave some time off of that by competing and winning a white belt contest. And of course, passing your blue belt test. So here at Seika Dojo, I grade on 2 things. One being knowledge, that's your test, right? And then combat proficiency. So do you have the skills to do what you know against a resisting opponent? And a real easy way to prove combat proficiency is through competition, but that's not a requirement. You don't have to compete. So you're a white belt. You've been practicing for approximately 2 years. You pass your blue belt test, and you're ready to move on to your blue belt. Skill-wise, you've proven that somebody who's bigger and stronger than you, that doesn't know anything, that doesn't know jiu-jitsu, you can subdue and defeat them on the mat. So that's a blue belt, right? So once you've done that at white belt, you've passed your blue belt test, and you can prove that somebody walking through the door in the dojo that has no jiu-jitsu experience, who's bigger and stronger than you, and you can beat them, you're blue belt. Right? At blue belt, that can be a very difficult rank. Right? It's still a beginner rank, but it can be a very difficult rank because the next step is really hard to get. Okay, so if you're a blue belt and you're looking at purple, it can be really, really difficult to break through that plateau and make purple. For example, I was a blue belt for 5 years. It took me to get my black belt in jiu-jitsu almost 12 years, 11 years and some change. So I was pushing up to 12 years. And a lot of that time was spent at blue belt. And that's because I had a learning disability. I was strong. For my size, I was very strong. And I leaned on that like a crutch. So it held me back from doing things at a purple belt level. Okay. So to get your purple belt, you're wearing a blue belt. To get your purple belt, of course, you need to pass the purple belt test. This is one of the hardest knowledge tests that I have. but you also need to be performing things, a handful of things at black belt level. A purple belt is an expert grappler. They are exceedingly good at a handful of things. And I expect a purple belt to have a very, very good guard. So, our dojo, our style of jujitsu, we emphasize takedowns, guard passing, and top game. But at purple belt, you need to have an excellent guard. Excellent guard. Like if I'm fixing to pass your guard, you need to be working on replacing that guard right away. It needs to be very dangerous. You need to be attacking with really efficient submissions and sweeps and back takes. You just need to have an excellent guard to be a purple belt. And that can be really hard to develop, you know. So if you're a blue belt and you've hit that plateau, you've got the blue belt blues or whatever, you need to be curious. You need to be asking questions. Okay, hey, professor, sensei, whoever your coach is, I keep getting stuck in this position. Right? What is a good solution for me? Or this keeps happening to me, right? There's a number of things that you can plateau in at blue belt, and it will delay your progression to the next rank. One of them is just not being consistent. Okay, you're not coming in often enough to develop the skills that you need to progress into purple belt. Another reason could be that you're not curious. You're stuck in the routine of coming in, but you're not actively steering the wheel of your own progression. Okay, so be curious, ask questions. Learn to accurately identify problem areas on the mat that you struggle with, and we can work that out together. So moving on, you've passed your purple belt test, and you've proven that you can you have the skills, the combat proficiency to be a purple belt. You get your purple belt. I'd be more than happy to tie that rank on you if you're an expert grappler. Okay, so if I were to give a student a purple belt, that means they've pretty much made it. If I tie a purple belt around somebody, that means that they're over the hump, and I can definitely see that one day they're going to be a black belt. So it's a big deal rank. So you've received your purple belt. Okay. The next step is brown. Okay. Purple belt, you are still catching the rest of your game up to the handful of things that you're doing black belt level. Okay. So the process at purple belt is, okay, I'm really good at X, Y, and Z. Now I need to get A, B, and C up there, right? And you have a very good idea of who you are as a jujutsuka, as a grappler. You know the things that you do very well. You have a very good idea. You have excellent strategy. These are the things that I expect from purple, okay? To get into brown, you are basically already a black belt. Okay, a brown belt is a black belt in disguise. Okay, I've heard that said a lot, and I really agree with that. The process at brown belt to get into black is different. You're a brown belt. It's more of a distillation process. So like you're actually taking things out of your game that don't fit anymore, right? So up until like all through white, blue, purple, you're collecting a lot of techniques. At brown belt, you're taking a lot of things out. You're like, okay, I'm going to put that on the shelf. That doesn't fit into my game anymore, right? And then you're sharpening things. There's almost no difference between a brown belt and a first year black belt. Brown belts are very good. The black belts, there's a refining process and a distillation process that needs to happen before they make black. And at each rank, blue, purple, brown, black, I have tests. So I want to test your knowledge and your combat proficiency. That's seen on the mat or on the competition mat. Okay, those are the two things that I'm looking at for each rank at progression. So I'll talk a little bit about stripes. Okay. 6 months of hard work, generally speaking, you get a stripe. Okay. It looks a little different at each rank. Okay, so at white, you're going to get a stripe every 6 months. Okay, if you're working hard and you're putting the effort in. Okay, and once you get 4 stripes, you're eligible to test for your next belt. Okay, now that being said, if you just got your blue or your purple, you're probably not going to, I don't stripe that first year at blue and purple. Okay, that's about a 3-year process at each of those, on average, at each of those ranks. Okay, so just because you have, I don't know what that was, just because you have 4 stripes on your belt and you've passed your written test or your test, right, where you've proven that you understand the techniques, that doesn't mean your combat proficiency's there. Okay, and I'm more than willing to have these discussions with my students. Okay, some people, they get a little touchy about that. I'm very happy to discuss, you know, what they need to work on, the things that they need to do to break through to their, you know, through their plateau and get to that next place that they want to be. Okay, so at brown is like white belt in the sense that it's a very short rank. It's about 2 years. Okay, so you might get stripes a little quicker at brown. Okay. But generally speaking, it's about 2 years at white, 3 years at blue and purple, and 2 years at brown. And that's 10 years. That's the average, okay? But that looks different for each student, okay? Like I said, for me, I was a blue belt for 5 years, right? But I had responsible instructors. At each rank, when I tied that new belt around my waist and stepped onto the mat, I was keeping the paces, if not beating those guys at that rank. Okay, you don't, as an instructor, you don't want to be that guy who ties a belt around their student's waist and they can't defend that belt. That's not good for them. That's not good for you or your academy. That's not good for anybody. Okay? I've made the mistake in the past, long ago, of tying a belt around somebody's waist, hoping that they would rise up to that level. And generally speaking, more often than not, they don't. Right? They feel like, okay, well, I'm going to put it on cruise control now, mission accomplished. That's a problem with the rank system. Okay? So You don't want to tie a belt around somebody's waist that they can't defend. It's just not healthy for them, okay? Or their development. So, in conclusion, if I've tied a belt around your waist, it means that you've 100% earned it. That I don't give anything away to anybody. Sega Dojo is a private club. Okay, if you're here, it's because I want to teach you, because I only teach the people that I want to teach. This isn't a public dojo where you're a customer and you pay and you entitled to my mat. That's not this. I've done that before, and that's just not what I do. If you're here, it's because you bring a lot to the table. You have a lot to offer the group, and I value you. Okay? So don't get discouraged, right? Don't be an impatient American, okay? And enjoy the process, okay? You guys are great, and I'm very happy to have you as students. And I hope that you learn to enjoy this process and love the art the way I do. And anyways, hope you all have a good morning.